and the back end work that you do just to bolster the USC community. And Jamie D, it's a very big pleasure to actually get to speak with you, brother. Fight on. You are in the class and category of a bunch of legends, and so I'm always feeling honored to talk with former Trojan brothers who paved the way for me. So
Thank you,
it's
sir.
nice to connect with you. Absolutely.
It's an honor and pleasure to talk to you. I love you guys, you and J32. I've been looking forward to this day for a long time. I look forward to seeing all the work you've done. Your body of work's tremendous. And it is truly an honor and pleasure to be with you guys. The gratitude is huge, especially before we head into the Thanksgiving holidays. So I'm
Amen.
psyched.
Amen.
So, hey, we're going to get started here with I'm hosting you guys. This is my home. Thanksgiving, I got all the fine china out. And let's start off with our expectations. Thank you to those that are in the chat joining us. Special happy Thanksgiving Day to everybody, all Trojans and college football fans. But hey, let's get back. In fact, I did a pregame show. I think it was before San Jose State with you, Jay, and John Walker. And
oh yeah,
we were wearing our shades.
Oh man,
we set our expectations, right? We set our expectations. I had us going down 11-1. Let's start with you, Jamie. Go to JWalk and then to USC J. But send us what your expectations were at the beginning of the season. Jamie?
Yeah, I was looking at 10-2. I mean, I thought we would struggle at Oregon on the road. Autzen a different animal, as we all know. Yeah, I thought going to ND as well. I thought we played well, compete there, but I didn't feel strong that we come out with a W. I thought we compete though, so I thought we'd go 10-2, and then get into the Pac-12 championship and then roll from there. I thought the conference was strong enough where we can get in with 2 and then have a chance to get into the Final Four. So that's kind of where I'm at. That's where I was at originally.
Well, I believe that we could go undefeated. Not just as a extreme optimist and altruistic person, but mostly because of the pieces that we added from a coaching staff perspective, as well as with some of the supplemental guys that we brought in who had a lot of proven history in the NCAA to be successful. I really, really believe that we had enough if we were able to mold those pieces together the correct way. I thought we had enough weaponry to just stack upon the things that we struggled with last season. And unfortunately, I just don't think that I was being I was naive. I was naive to think that it could happen just because I was praying so fervently that it would.
That's honest.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jay?
Wow, man, you mentioned Thanksgiving, and if this was a Thanksgiving dinner that the USC Trojans will have based on the season, only thing we would probably have is cranberry sauce, and we would be lost in all the cranberry sauce right now. I mean, and that's it. We're missing the stuff. We're missing the potato salad. We're missing the turkey. We're missing absolutely everything right now. We're lost in the cranberry sauce. But, basically, my thought process coming into it was really based upon the information that was already given, especially with the guy coming from the transfer portal, especially you looked at the PFF grades of each and every player. And then Phil Steele, you had guys, experts, predicting USC to go to the playoffs. So accumulate a couple of all that information, gathering that, I had us going, basically undefeated. But I did say Oregon was like a 50-50 game, just given the fact that I know that it would be at Autzen Stadium. So, my expectation was very high for numerous reasons. And I think every expert around the country, nobody's seen anything. Well, we'll get into that because this is a whole nother issue when we're talking about culture, coaching and everything else. So my expectation is very high.
Right.
Yeah, I echo those sentiments. I had USC going 11-1, losing at Autzen. And what we had coming back, what we had in the transfer portal, it was another year in the scheme with Alex Grinch's defense, who we got in terms of Anthony Lucas and Bear Alexander. We fortified our defensive front, so I thought we had we're going to have a rotation, have depth, and all across the board. And then obviously having Caleb Williams coming back another year in the offense, getting Cliff Kingsbury as an offensive analyst, hiring Greg Brown as a defensive analyst and 2 other analysts to give Lincoln Riley the extra time to be CEO, manage the team, discover opportunities, perhaps, let's say, improve special teams. I thought collectively, yes, we knew the back end was going to be challenging, but I thought we had the team built up. Obviously, they knew what the schedule was going to be going into the offseason, the training with Wiley, and managing the schedule. But that didn't happen. And here we are. And so we're here to speak the truth and give our opinions. We want to hear yours as well. Thank you for joining us in the chat this day before Thanksgiving. And so let's start off. Last year, I started having some different feelings. Let's say I knew something was up at the end of that UCLA game. We had that interception by Corey Foreman. And then we go into the Pac-12 championship game, again, lose in horrible fashion to Utah. And then we saw what happened with Tulane, again, late in the Cotton Bowl. So we finished the last part of this season 1-5. When did you first know, and again, we'll start with Jamie, when did you first know that, hey, something doesn't look right?
Yeah, I think first of all, start with the Utah. I think we had blinders on, that we believed in that team so much last year, on the amazing turnaround he did with those kids, and what he did with the players that stepped up with all the turnovers they had. And so I went into the Tulane game with an open mind. And then, to be honest with you, I saw that Tulane game. I was at the Rose Bowl, and I was watching that game at a tailgate. And then I was like, we're up by 15. I go to my seat, and I got 20 texts saying, oh, no, we're not. So in a matter of minutes, and I saw the replay after that, that was when I knew that something was completely off. Because, JWalk, at all the Trojan teams, we close out games. We close out teams. And that was kind of the first sign where I said, something's off with the system, the scheme, or whatever the kids are believing or not believing. But that was the first sign to me, the Tulane game. And I still have PTSD from that game, to be honest with you, to this day. So that's kind of my analysis.
Yes, I agree. I do agree with the Tulane game, but I saw it, for me, at home. I saw it against Washington State last year.
Mm-hmm.
I said, oh, why can't we just put these dudes away, right? And Cam Ward just kept coming. He kept creating the hope. And I can remember being in the Coliseum and just hearing the Cougars fans in that little corner tucked away over there by the visitors' end zone going berserk way too consistently. And I'm thinking, this just, we're allowing these guys to celebrate in our house. We're allowing these guys to feel triumphant in our house. And then again, it showed up again in the away game against Arizona. We couldn't put them away. And I said, yeah, this is going to be a problem, because I thought after the Oregon State game that our defense found an identity. I thought that our defense figured it out and okay, this is who we're going to be moving forward. We understand that the offense can't do everything. We have to bring our hard hat as well. And Utah, both games, I mean, you can say the Utah second game, I mean, Caleb was injured, right? So you feel optimistic with a healthy Caleb that entire game, but just seeing how we could never actually bury Tulane in that championship game, I felt like we were going, and I hate to say this, but I felt like the potential for us to lose Tulane was very high at the beginning of the third quarter, when we couldn't go up by 21 points. Even though we had every opportunity to, we kept allowing them to advance and get those first downs. We were so soft on third down in the run game. They were running for 14-yard first downs on third and long, running the ball. And I said, yeah, this is going to be a problem. Yeah, and it showed up a lot this season too, unfortunately.
Yeah.
USC J can attest to me texting him in games like second quarter, going, "Uh-oh," like, uh-oh. And it just was. It's a culture thing.
USC J,
I think with me, I kind of noticed it. I kind of noticed it on a small level all last year, but you kind of keep things to yourself because everything's going well. You outscoring, offense is kind of, they're moving and grooving. But I noticed, the controlling the clock issues, the decision making. I kind of noticed that, we still get, just kind of got pass happy and didn't really put the foot on the gas as far as controlling the clock. And then I was actually at that Tulane game, and I can remember. I really noticed it then. I can remember walking out. Me and my buddy, we were like, "Man, let's get out of here, man. Let's go try to beat the traffic so we can make it out of town." And I'm walking out. We were up like 14 points. I'm walking out the game, and I hear a bunch of cheering going on, man. And I'm like, "What is this?" And my buddy turns on Hulu TV, and we're looking at the game as we're walking out. And we see Tulane score. I said, "You got to be kidding me!" And then it happened again. They scored again as we walking towards our vehicle. And I'm thinking, like, what in the world? But I'm just like, the questionable play calling. You see the special teams things coming into effect. You see all types of flaws, and we'll get into this, and then to still think that we don't need a special team coach, and you live by that, you die by that. You talking about lost in the sauce on every level. I mean, it's stubbornness on another level. I mean, man, we can get into this, man. I'm absolutely, every time I think about it, it drives me crazy, man, because it's like, a lot of things could have been prevented. And if you know that your defense is somewhat of the soft spot, why would you put them in a vulnerable position to where they absolutely lost in the sauce instead of controlling the clock? And we kind of noticed it last year, but it was covered up by how effective Caleb Williams' numbers was. He's crazy, and oddly enough, he's 1,000 yards less. Even though we got a top offense, he's 1,000 yards less than what he had last year. So that's pretty much for me, man, where I noticed it.
Yeah, you guys bring up excellent points. We all have some different opinions. We know something wasn't right towards the end of last year. And where I saw it was at the Colorado game. I just didn't understand the play calling. I was getting criticized because I was being critical that we were scoring too fast. We got the interception within the 25-yard line. We just saw Colorado go up to Oregon and get boat raced. Oregon ran all over them. And so where was our running game to take time off the clock? You're in a hostile environment. You're on a national stage against Colorado. Big noon kickoff, game day there. And Colorado was hot at that time, if you remember, guys. And no, we had one run, 3 passes. We scored like in a minute, 10 seconds. And then our defense gets another stop. They force Colorado to punt the ball. We block the punt. Again, we get it within the Colorado 25-yard line. 1 run, 3 passes, and we score like in another minute. It's like, why aren't we running the ball on this team? And so I wondered about that. And maybe it wasn't because we wouldn't run the balls. We couldn't. Maybe that was it. And where was that physicality and closing out a game, enforcing your will? We had Brandon Hancock there that day watching the game with us at Tustin Brewing, and he couldn't believe it. We were both beside ourselves. We also knew something was up too, JWalk, when you were there with ASU game, right? And that wasn't looking right. And you were texting USC J back and forth. He's like, man, USC J is not going to be doing well right now. And we were all kind of dumbfounded. I mean, have we heard anything from Scatterbo since then? And that guy, we made guys look all world. They were all Pac-12 every week after we played. So I guess we get to the point now was, okay, obviously changes have to be made. Alex Grinch was fired. We're moving on. So what do you guys think has to happen to change the culture at USC? We know what a championship team looks like. USC J, let's start off with you, man.
Man, it's so many things within this that need to be addressed. you know, it all starts, of course, you know, I mean, you look at the multiple penalties that took place all throughout the year. I mean, little things like you celebrate plays, you get happy, but it's the little things that they, you know, even when we're down, you see guys celebrating after making like small plays, and it's like, come on, man, we're down, man. Any little thing, you know, whether it's whatever the targeting plays, it's so many discipline aspects of it, but I think the rules have to apply all across the board from a cultural standpoint. When you see guys from the defense, you know what they say that don't make plays and they're putting certain guys in. The same thing doesn't apply. It appears on offense. It seemed like, you know, from a culture standpoint that they kind of have favorites, man, and that's just the reality of it. And they're, I know it personally that's taking place, and I think it has to. This thing has to be ran like in a elite college football program. And I hate to bring up other coaching staffs like Nick Saban, but just imagine if Coach Nick Saban was at USC right now. What type of changes or policies, procedures, or whatever will be implemented in this particular on this particular team?
Yeah, and that's a great point, Jay. And let's hear from the two guys who've actually played for championship coaches. There's a mentality, there's a culture. You put on the Cardinal and gold, and there's an expectation. Jamie, you played for Mike Gillespie at USC. You played baseball, and then we'll start with you, and then JWalk, if you can chime in as well, playing for Pete Carroll. But Jamie, tell us about what a championship culture looks like.
Well, it starts with the mindset. So, I mean, we all know John Jackson. We had players like that we went into a game and we expected to win. We had a mindset with a killer instinct that no one could beat us. We were loose, we were free, we were confident. We knew what we had to do, and we executed. So, and we left no doubt every game, every inning. So I think it comes down to the mindset that you do whatever it takes to win, and you're confident and you know how to win. That's the key thing, is you got to know how to win. And Coach Gillespie taught us how to win. And that's sacrificing and selling out for your brothers, selling out for your teammates, which is your coaches and everybody else, that you're going to do whatever it takes to win. And it's a mindset. And that's where it comes to mental toughness. And I think that's what Coach Gillespie preached on us, and to never give in and to never give up. But also, body language is a big thing. I'll kind of go over to JWalk in a minute. But I saw in that UCLA game, to be honest with you, I saw the body language is everything. They didn't have that body language that UCLA had in that game. And we had that body language. We were always up. Everyone was on the dugout. No one was sitting down at all. We were all up, ready to go. We had that body language that we were going to win. So it's all that. And I'll kind of go back to something that came up earlier. I was really disappointed they didn't use Darwin Barlow more often this year, because he was a big physical back that could have helped open up the offense with those tough defenses. And that young man, God bless him, he should have had a lot more carries, and he could have been the difference maker to opening up their running game if they ever use the running game consistently. And I'll leave it at that. But I'll sure.
Well, man, Jamie, thank you for saying that about Darwin. I'm just gonna, before I'm going to my, to my thoughts, I'm gonna say this out loud right here for the whole internet to hear, from today, for the rest of forever, as long as this is available. Darwin Barlow, whenever you need
Jay.
Oh,
Jay,
you're on mute.
Your value went up.
Let's start that over, Jay.
Your value.
We don't got you yet.
Okay,
let's try to pull it back up. I think your connection went out, JWalk.
It's out. Yeah.
Can't hear you. Maybe let's log off and come back in.
While he's doing that real quick, man, I actually interviewed Darwin Barlow on my show, man, and I can remember, a lot of comments were in the comment section. made reference to him coming back. He said, Jay, I'm coming back to compete. And I told him, I said, look, man, I believe in you as a running back, as a player. And I would, all through the season, I would text him. His mom would text me back and forth. And, you know, they couldn't understand, like, what's really going on. I mean, this guy came from TCU, small town in Texas, had major ability. And for him to not get carries, and if you remember, the same thing happened that he did in Washington happened in UCLA last year. Hit the guy, nice run last year, nice touchdown. But for whatever reason, it was like he was just getting neglected. And but this goes back to everything starts at the top, right? Why are we stockpiling so much talent on the offensive side? Receivers, Dorian Singer coming over from schools like Arizona, but then he just sits on the sideline. Why are we stockpiling? We got so much offensive side weapons, 5 running backs, and they don't get utilized. So it's like you got everything starts on the top. We got to question those things. Why is it happening?
Yeah. Test.
There we go. You're back.
Okay. Apologies, guys. Hey, guys, I'm at my satellite studio right now, and I'm using my mobile device, and calls keep coming in, so I think they hijacked my signal. Apologies for that. But what I was saying was, Darwin Barlow, you, along with a handful of other players who I've already personally reached out to, and you guys know who you are. Whenever you call, no matter what phase of your life or your career you're in, whenever you decide to put the football down, whenever you decide to hang the cleats up, you have my contact. I will answer the call. From business to real estate investment to mentorship to whatever it is you're looking to do, because you embody everything that it is to be a Trojan. Not only that, but I see so much of myself in your spirit and how you love your teammates, how whenever you get your opportunities, you are so advantageous, you're so opportunistic, you seize and clutch every moment that you get. And it is a shame that I believe that our staff has misappropriated your career here. And but God got you, little bro, and so do I. And I know a handful of other alumnus like myself who share that sentiment. And for those other Trojans who I personally reached out to, there's a specific reason why. It's because I see within you the future of what a leader in the Trojan family is supposed to be like. So I'm telling you right now, whenever you call me, the answer is yes. You have my contact. You're locked in, you're loaded, and we'll get going whenever you decide that you want to, use that contact. All right. And that's what being a Trojan is all about. I got you, little bro, because you've held this program down. And unfortunately, you haven't, in my humble opinion, you haven't got the opportunity to showcase your true gifts, because the world should have known who you were times 10. I believe that with my whole heart. So, all right, enough with the squishy stuff. What I feel in terms of a culture, and why the team has felt so scattered is because I don't believe that the identity of the team was cemented enough. Like when I went to USC, we got buried in the dirt. I'm talking about from the weight room staff, from the extra training that we did, to the private trainings that we met up with outside of what the coaches asked us to do, to meeting up and doing hill sprints at the beach. Everything that we did to make sure that we were just at our competitive highest level of prowess. We did those things. And I'm not certain that this generation of Trojan athlete understands what it's like to have to protect your territory, because a lot of them are not from the territory. A lot of them are not from the region to understand how important it is to fight for the land of the Cardinal and Gold. Now, I'm not saying that, I'm not against going out of state and bringing in amazing talent, because we did that. But the foundation of the team was a bunch of guys who understand and understood what it was like to play in the area that, geographically where USC is located, and all of the forefathers and sisters that came to build this land, and how hard we have to protect it. And so again, our coaches buried us. They buried us in the dirt. There was love, but it was the toughest love. I mean, bloody tears and accountability. And the one thing that I realized every time I got upset for when a coach just grinded me to the dust, grinded me and pushed me into the dirt. I'm telling you, they pushed me into the dirt just like most of us. Reggie Bush got his butt crushed in practice if he had a bad practice. Lindell White got crushed in practice. Mike Williams crushed. Troy Polamalu held to the highest standard. Carson Palmer running sprints for throwing interceptions. Heisman Trophy winners getting dogged, dragged into the dirt by the coaches. But here's what they were doing. They were pushing us into the dirt because they realized we were seeds. And from being crushed and all the hard work and sweat that we put into it, we used that sweat and those bloody tears to water the soil. And we grew from that, and we produced fruit. We produced land and vibrancy that everybody shared from. I don't believe that there is a culture of accountability to the standard by which we are accustomed to as Trojans who love this program. I don't see it. I see a bunch of athletes who are made to believe that it is okay.
Yeah,
it is always going to be okay. And that's a lie. That's a lie. It's a bold-faced lie.
This is the way we put our uniform on, the way we put our shoes on, the way we actually did how our routines were done, the way we were, if we missed a bunt, we knew the fear of being the wrath of not executing in practice. We knew,
you're right.
If you weren't being yelled at, that means they didn't think you could play. But everybody was on the edge of executing everything you do in practice, because if you don't execute in practice, then we have a bigger problem and we're not going to execute in the game. So the focus, the discipline, how we, like I said, how we dress, how we wore shoes, everything. It was a system. It was a culture. It was known. And if you sway from that brotherhood and that system, then you weren't a Trojan.
You weren't a Trojan.
Correct.
No, you were gone. Can I share two stories, both by the same individual? So there's a legend. All right. I'm gonna name drop a little bit, but I had a roommate whose father is in the NFL Hall of Fame. My best friend on the team, he was a wide receiver, defensive back, and his father is currently in the NFL Hall of Fame. Now, as a freshman, he was starting at cornerback. My friend that I'm referring to for USC. We were playing Kansas State. They were going like from the 5-yard in to score, and they had a little running back named Darren Sproles, and he was a little shifty dude. So Darren Sproles catches a toss sweep, and is my best friend right on the edge, right on the goal line with Darren Sproles, and Darren Sproles kind of lowers his shoulder. My buddy tackles him, and Darren Sproles falls forward into the end zone. That was the game-winning touchdown, as I remember it, for them, because we didn't score after that, and then time ran out, we lost, right? So we get back to California, and my roommate is just like, dang, that was my moment on the national stage. Everybody was proud of him. He's a true freshman out there against Kansas State. He balled out. He just didn't make that exact play, right? So we're on the sideline at home in practice, and a guy walks up to him, turns him around, and puts his finger in his face, and he says, "Play like your daddy." I'm like, whoa. And my roommate looks at him and is like, what? And he goes, oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Right? He recognized who was disciplining him. Play like your daddy. Just like that. And tapped him on the helmet and walked away. And we're like, I'm right there like, oh. Okay, fast forward. 4 years later, Notre Dame, Bush push game. I get 2 pass interference calls in that game. I'm finally starting. I'm like, yes. But I get 2 pass interference calls in that game. In my opinion, I almost cost us the dang game. Brady Quinn's throwing these looping long bombs to Jeff Samardzija and Maurice Stovall, and I'm having a hard time tracking the ball, right? Not only that, but I wasn't feeling well that game. Neither here nor there. Anyway, we win. We get back to California. We're getting ready for the next game, which is Washington, I believe. We're preparing. And somebody grabs me by my face mask, smacks me on the helmet, turns me around because he grabbed me from the back of my face mask, hooked me, turned me around. I'm already ready to fight. Like, who is manhandling me like this? I turn around, fist up. He smacks me in my face mask, yanks my helmet down, shoves me, and he's like, "You almost cost us the game." And I'm like, "Yes, sir, Mr. Ronnie Lott. I'm so sorry."
Whoa.
Ronnie Lott. So my roommate and I both got our butts chewed out by the legend, Ronnie Lott. I don't see that now. I don't see us as alumni, and I'm not a legend at all in my own head. I mean, I'm not a legend, but I don't see the team allowing us to get back there and tug on the heartstrings of these young men.
Absolutely.
I don't see them giving us the access to point your finger. Because when I was there, Lynn Swan would walk up to Kerry Colbert and would walk up to Mike Williams and have a personal conversation. I don't see us allowing Carson Palmer to come in and talk with Caleb. Hey, Caleb, let me just tell you what you have access to. You can tap into the strength of your ancestors right here. That's why we're here. There's an umbilical cord that is somehow being severed by maybe coaches who don't understand the framework of why we are SC, and it's bugging me.
But they gotta let you in. They gotta
bugging me.
They got this thing on private mode, man, and that's what's crazy. It's crazy.
That's some great points, JWalk. Thanks for sharing that. I had no clue, but let me share some information with you guys. And you know, there's got to be a passion. There's got to be a will to fight. Even when USC had some of its least performing teams, let's say, from 1991 to 1998, we lost 8 in a row to UCLA. 2 of those teams at the beginning were Larry Smith, 5 with J. Rob, 2, and then Paul Hackett. Okay? And in that 1998 game, where they won their 8th in a row, I call it the 8 slap. I watched that game. That was Cade McNown. And Cade McNown was a Heisman Trophy candidate that year. They were on the precipice of going to the college football playoff, the national championship, and they had to beat USC. And Cade McNown became the only quarterback to beat USC 4 times. But USC fought during those years. There was only one game, and it was that 1998 game that they lost by 17 points. All the other games were within a touchdown. And because there was desire, there was heart. And in those 8 years, USC was 3-4-1 against Notre Dame. So what does that tell you? That game in 98, everybody thought Cade McNown was going to pass all over USC in the Rose Bowl. But there was a freshman who wasn't feeling well either, JWalk, and his name was Deshaun Foster out of Tustin High School. And Deshaun Foster was a man. He ran the ball, had 3 TDs, 105 yards, another TD receiving. But they punished us. But we fought. I don't see the offensive and defensive line play. That it starts there at the center. So we've established we need a culture change. Let's transition. Obviously, it starts at the top. I couldn't understand excuses. Champions do not make excuses, much less championship coaches. I love Lincoln Riley, but I could not believe throughout the year he was talking about a few plays, right? Or a holding penalty, being in the game. Okay, I could tell you, Lincoln Riley, that you were a missed 2-point conversion from losing to Arizona and another missed 2-point conversion from losing at Cal. We could be 5-7 very easily. That game could be played both ways. It's a 2-way street. So at the after the UCLA game, Lincoln Riley basically said it's on him. He has to change. And now USC is looking for a defensive coordinator. Let's get into it. There were rumors this Monday. They're still continuing to talk that Jim Leonard, the former Wisconsin player, NFL player, and Wisconsin DC is discussing the position with USC. There's also other candidates as well. After this weekend, there'll be more candidates. Starting off with you, JWalk, this time. What are your thoughts on Jim Leonhard? And what are your thoughts, if it's not Jim Leonhard, who would you like to see as a defensive coordinator?
I believe that Coach Jim Leonhard has the level of coaching acumen to help understand how to create an adaptive change in our defensive mentality, especially going into the next conference, because he has experience playing against those styles of offenses. Mm-hmm. Now, on top of that, I believe that he's also has the temperament where he, whenever I've heard him in his interviews, and I've never met him personally, but he seems to have a little bit more personal ability to connect with players and get his system, his methodology ingrained in them. I always felt like Grinch was aloof, like just kind of disconnected from the players, like not understanding how to relate with so many diverse types of players with their diverse cultural, ethnic, religious backgrounds, and all that matters. You don't think it matters? It matters for a player to feel like my coach understands me and I understand my coach. It seems like certain coaches on this staff are just fixed on connecting with players who they believe they can have conversation with that is similar, shared interest. Whereas I believe that Coach Leonhard and all of the players that have ever spoken about him that I've heard on record, nobody has anything negative to say about him that I've read, that I've heard about. So at least from a player's perspective, whether he can gel with Coach Riley and the staff, I don't know. But I do think that his style of defense is more akin to what we like to see as a USC fraternity. We don't need to trick people. We have better athletes. We just got to get them fundamentally sound, lined up, and give them one or two options and let those athletes play the game that they've been playing majority of their life. Your scheme is not better than that player. I promise you it's not. That player is there because they were talented enough, and you're trying to mold their skill set to fit this peculiar scheme. And I don't believe that's going to work long term where we are. We have enough evidence to know that that's not how it works. Not here at SC. So let's get a coach in there that can get them fundamentally sound, lined up, and hopefully recognize the gravity of playing games as big as that are on the horizon.
Let's go with you, Jamie. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'll go. Let Jay go first. Jay 32. I'll go last. Go ahead, Jay.
Man, I of course I'm gonna go with Jim Leonhard. Just statistically, what he did at Wisconsin, how they led. I mean, they displayed toughness, man. The categories, pass rush, pass defense. I think he's got to be on everybody's number one board. Of course, the whole Dave Aranda thing. I'm feeling that as well, just because he's a Southern California native. Right. But he's still at Baylor. And coincidentally, he was actually the defensive coordinator at Wisconsin before Jim Leonhard. And then Jim Leonhard came in there immediately after him. And then I like Manny Diaz as well. Statistically, Michigan's number one in total defense right now, but then Penn State is number two. I like him a lot. And then I like the UCLA coordinator. I did a whole video on him, man. They're ranked number 10 right now in total defense. That guy, to me, honestly, that would be the easiest transition. Anton Lynn, he's already in LA. He's got a number 10 defense in the country. And I think that guy, man, he's probably going to be an NFL coach, man. But I think from a coach's standpoint, I think he can relate. He's young. So, those are kind of the guys right there that I really, and I heard the DJ Durkin thing. I like him as well at Texas A&M. He's did some great things. He's been all over Michigan. He's been everywhere, Maryland. So those are kind of the guys that I'm really feeling. And the Jimmy Lake thing too, just because he's kind of attached to Jennifer Cohen. And she actually hired him and fired him. But I like him as well.
Those are great ones. And I'm looking at the transition to the Big Ten, and my first two are Manny Diaz and Jim Leonhard, because they coach in the Big Ten today. They know the landscape. They know kind of how football is done out there, and they're shut down DCs. they're going to come in here. They're going to build a culture. They're going to get the players that fit that system. And JWalk knows, and you play too, J32. You got to get a system where you swarm to the ball, and you can see that they have hats on balls everywhere all the time. And those are my top two guys. I have a wild card for number 3, and he's in the NFL. He's only been with the Ravens for 2 years. His name is Mike McDonald, and I've been watching his body of work. It might be a tough one to get, but I believe he's only been there for 2 years, but he's turned the whole Ravens system around. And you look at they lead the league in sacks, if I'm not mistaken, but the way they play football and the way they play defense, his scheme would come into SC, and those quarterbacks would not be running around for those chunk plays. And that's a wild card. I'd like to get an NFL guy if he's open to come as well. So there's a lot of other candidates, but those are my top 3 right there.
Oh, yeah, those are all great choices, guys. And I it's really critical to get this right. And I think what happened going 1-5 at the end of the year, you got Jen Cohen in there. She obviously knows how to hire coaches, and you have the leadership in place, the support of Carol Folt, the board of trustees, to get this right. And I think the translation, if you heard Lincoln Riley after the UCLA game, that was the first time I think he spoke honestly. And so I think he's been encouraged to, hey, this is 7 years. What's the definition of insanity? Maybe you got to check the blind spots, but you got to get this right. And the media is a little bit different in LA than Norman. And so the expectations are very high here. He knew that coming in. He quoted Pete Carroll, talked about Pete Carroll and those championship teams, and it hasn't happened for whatever reason. But you might want to start with defense and some toughness and some culture, because it starts from there. You have to fight in the trenches. You have to run the ball. You have to be balanced. I don't know what is going on. For USC to only rush for 3 yards in the Coliseum in a rivalry game, that was embarrassing. And I thought Washington was hard to sit through. We just needed 2 stops. We couldn't get them. So you had Grinch for an extra year. Whatever happened, happened. And now it's critical. And you have to have somebody. I would prefer to have a DC that has experience in the Big Ten, because that's a whole nother animal. Besides the travel, the new locales and teams, you have to know what type of player you have to recruit. You have to play special teams. That's another overlooked position that Lincoln Riley has to address. Jim Leonard played special teams at Wisconsin. He was a walk-on who elevated his game to a 10-year NFL career. This guy returned kicks and punts. He understands about blocking, okay, setting up the plays, and how that wins you games, so you don't have to explain about the 1 or 2 plays that could have helped you win a game.
Yeah, so Rick, not to hijack this call, but you brought up special teams, and I think that's such a miss here we don't have. When I was at SC with JJ and Rodney Pete and that whole amazing, we were ranked in the top 5 defenses in America every single year at the time. But what we had was unique, and over the years, so I think with Pete too, coming from Ron JWalk, is we had a great special teams coordinator. And back then his name was Bobby April, and he coached in the NFL for many, many years. And he was a real staple, and that was a big focus. And I think we need to prioritize that hire on the special team side, because I got to tell you, if we're going to do a special teams coach by committee, we're going to have those issues that we saw in Tulane I'm not going to go with the names. I'm not going to mention names. In the broader scope of what we've seen from a special team standpoint. So I'll turn it back to the panel and let me know what you guys think from a special team.
I agree. I wholeheartedly agree. And it's painful. It's painful to know that all these athletes with all this upside are kind of are just they're like homesick for a feeling that they're not getting, at their home. And it's unbelievably disheartening. And, you have to be somewhat delusional to see what's happening and not aggressively try to pivot. Aggressively try to figure out what am I missing. If I was Coach Riley, I would be blowing up Coach Pete Carroll. Hey, what are some bullet points? And I like Coach Riley. I used to say I love him, but I like him for the potential. I don't like that he allows so many of our weapons to be put on the shelf all season long.
Yeah. That's a great point. Great
defensively
point.
And offensively. I don't agree with allowing some of the, sometimes we went into firefights with water pistols instead of bringing the fire extinguishers and the hoses. I'm like, what is going on? Like that player is not prepared for this moment. That player is not prepared for this moment. I know you're trying to force reps and force acceleration of growth. However, you've got people that are tried and true, proven USDA prime beef, organic grass-fed, certified Angus beef. Let's put him in the game and allow his experience and leadership to carry the team and the unit on both sides of the ball. Think of a guy like Dorian Singer. Think of a guy like Rajon Davis. Think of how much fickleness they had with a guy like Eric Gentry, who was on pace to be an All-American top leading buckets guy last season. Like, think of a guy like Shane Lee, who had so many great moments for us last year. You bring over Anthony Lucas, Jack Sullivan. You got Keon Bars, who is a tank in the middle and plays consistently, does his job, struggling to get the reps that we promised. And the list goes on and on. I can keep going, right?
You bring up a great point, JWalk. It's mismanagement. And, when Lincoln Riley came over, he had carte blanche. We no longer have Bone or Sosna here. But do you really need two wide receivers coaches? It's like it's imbalanced. There's an opportunity to bolster your special teams. Special teams is going to be critical going to the Big Ten. You're going to need to have a special teams coach. And hopefully the defensive coordinator that USC does hire, he gets an associate head coach title. I'm sure he will, whatever salary he needs. And he gets to put his imprint on the culture, right. Tackling in practice, being as physical as you need to be. Maybe it's like, hey, you have to have a special teams coach. But hopefully those will be some of the first moves that are going to help turn this culture around, because if you can't navigate the Pac-12, the best teams in the Pac-12 this year, you're going to be in for a real heavyweight fight going into places like Ann Arbor, and Maryland is on the upswing, and Minnesota.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, LBC, you mentioned about Lincoln Riley quoting Pete Carroll. I think that's what you just said. I'm just backing it up real quick. And it's a difference when you quote somebody and you quote it to kind of rehearse it. But then it's a difference when you quote somebody and really when it really hits. You respond and it affects you different. And I kind of got a sense the other day when I was watching him in the press conference that we kind of just felt like it was a rehearsed type situation all throughout the season. But then I think at the end of the day, he kind of the thoughts were just, as he was at the press conference, he was just sitting there and like reality really, really hit. And I think he realizes that now, I'm lost in the sauce. Everybody's been saying it all year long, but now, you can't hide. You got to come out wherever you are. And now reality is really hitting. And I think right now, I'm almost wondering if his hands are even off of it as far as the DC hire is concerned, because you really haven't showed that. I mean, right now, just based on some of the decisions this year and with the mismanagement of the talent, I heard you, JWalk, mention some of the guys with the talent, Antoine Figgins as well. You got guys just sitting there that can possibly be playing, but why? What? What is your reason? And then here's the thing: you in JWalk, you talked about accountability. You talked about and Jamie as well. Why when these guys are consistently missing tackles, you don't keep the way that I teach my son is when he make mistakes, I don't just keep putting him in the game. I don't just keep allow or cover up for my son when he's making mistakes. I sit him to the side and say, look, you got to sit out for a minute. That's just in my personal life. So if that can't translate to the field and you can't have those same principles in the field, to me, that is a problem.
Yeah, especially when you have all that talent that's sitting on the bench, like you mentioned, and certain mistakes happen over and over again. You have this. We mentioned some amazing names today that didn't get the exposure they needed this year and the time they. You mentioned Rayshawn. You mentioned a few others. That's next man up. We know how it works. You know how it works, and we didn't see a lot of that.
Yeah,
hey,
USC J,
USC J, I appreciate you coming on today. I know you've got to get going here. Very thankful for you coming in. For those that are watching, you need to follow USC J on Twitter, on Instagram, and obviously on YouTube. USC J is one of the hardest workers I know out there. Very well connected with parents, players, very well respected. I tell you what, I get up at like 5:30 in the morning. I got my cup of Joe, and USC J is already pumping out a video, man. So I love you. You are
amazing.
Man.
Hey, I love each and every one of you, man, and everybody that's in the chat, man. I really, really appreciate you. Jamie, hey, it's all love. Me and Jamie, I mean, we probably been texting almost every day on a regular basis, man.
Yes,
so
sir.
Much love to you, Jamie.
You
much
too,
love. JWalk already knows that's my brother, man.
That's
I'm his
good,
big bro, man. Hey, I take him, even though he's bigger than me. I'm his big bro.
I'm the little bro. I'm the little bro.
Very thankful for you. Thank you very much. Enjoy your Thanksgiving with family and friends, and fight on.
Absolutely, man. Hey, thank you, Rick. You guys take care. Stay blessed, man.
All right, brother. You guys make sure you follow USC J. He's. I mean, gosh, man. I don't. Excuse the reference, but he is a pot of gold. Like he has so much insight on a consistent basis.
Yeah.
And I can very much tell you that the sources that he gets his information from, I have direct communication with those sources, and he's got it through the bloodline. I mean, he really does. So
yeah, you called it out, JWalk, a long time ago when he first got launched, and he cares in his heart. And he really cares about USC, but he cares about the players in the program and their families. And he's a circle of trust. And that's everybody else that has all these different podcasts out there. I would tell you that he is a very unique. You guys are both unique in your way that you do this out of your heart, that you care about USC, but you care about the families too, and how the outcomes of their success in SC and post USC. So which is very unique.
I agree. And this could come off very wrong. And if it does, I don't care. I don't care if it comes off wrong, because I know my intentions and I know where my heart stands. But like when I went to USC, to me, that was a family that I got to choose. Most of us don't have the option of selecting our family. We don't have that ability. You're born into the environment that you're born into. And then, life takes you, and those who show up and you adopt this family, that's who you have, right? But when you get to choose a college, particularly one on a scholarship, you have options, right? And I had about 33 options, and USC, God told me, was the one. So that was a family that I got to choose. And so because of that, when I see these young men, in my heart, I look at them, not like their father particularly, but those are like my babies. I feel that way, like you're mistreating my children, because I love these people. I love these like my little brothers, and I love them the same way I would love my son and my daughter. And I can discipline them in a loving way, where most of them are receptive and go, yeah, you're right, big bro, And I'm like, I'm only telling you because not only have I lived in those cleats, but I know what's on the other side, on the other side of that locker room when you're done. And I know what you can still do because you've gone through this process. So it's my job to let them know that, yes, this is just a finite portion of your life, but the things that you do can last forever through legacy. You can build something that's so much bigger than you in this moment that will literally take your family into like stratospheric success. And you just got to do it the right way. And I don't know that intrinsically our coaches understand that, because I don't see a coach on that staff that even understands what USC is. I don't see a coach on that staff that really knows, like, when you live in LA and you do things the right way and you shake the right hands, this is what happens, because I've lived here long enough to know this. I've lived here long enough to be a part of this. Like, I do an event annually where I get about 6 to 10 billionaires that all graduate from USC, and I put them in the room in proximity with these athletes. And I go, hey, you guys need to meet one another. You guys need to shake one another's hands. And it's not just about money or anything like, but the truth is when you think about USC, you think about what's after USC.
That's right.
And I just don't know that the coaches that we have as their design really can speak to that. They hear about it. They know that, oh, this is a great alumni. But really, do you actually know, because you've been able to live and experience and be a byproduct of the fraternity of USC?
JWalk, that's a great point. You brought it up earlier. You intimated it earlier. So are you telling me, if I'm listening to you correctly, that this coaching staff, and headed by Lincoln Riley, is not really bringing in the players, the former players, to tell these stories and network and mentor or be available for these players?
They give us the limited level of access to appease our ego, I feel.
Okay, so that could also be a challenge with this culture, because you're not sharing the legacy. You're not telling the stories of what is to be true.
You're hoarding these athletes because you believe they're yours and they're in your program. But we had no idea what USC culture was until guys who played before us came back and said, this is what we did. This is what we do. This is where we failed. This is where we succeeded. This is how we wish we could have done it differently. Please learn from the mistakes of your forefathers and then learn from the successes from them. Let's try to emulate the things that go well and then overcome the areas of improvement and fix this. And together we share that knowledge, because information and education equals elevation. And so if you sharing this information, it's like you get to borrow all the insight of your ancestors to move forward. Like, yes, you have these talented players, but they're figuring it out and trying to reinvent the wheel, when actually we have a model that works. And it's been working for decades. You just got to get the players, plug them in, and give the right players the type of access to the players to speak to the spirit of Troy.
Yeah.
And that's even more, that's even more critical at this time because of the transfer portal. You're getting these players in, and they might not be here all that long. They need to know about who they're playing.
And
that's the most undervalued piece of what's going on. Everyone says, "Oh, these kids don't care about tradition. They don't care about pageantry and who came before them, and what SC was and what is." I disagree with that. I believe if you part of your as a coach selling the program, knowing the history and knowing the tradition, it's how you sell it. It's how you message it. It's very, very important, because that is the culture of what you're as part of SC, and they need to know that. They need to understand that. And I think that going back to what JWalk said, the pride and the spirit of Troy, that's what makes us unique. Of any other school in America, that's what makes USC different. And it has to be part of our DNA. When you walk in the door and you put that card on goal on, the pride and the spirit of Troy has got to be a part of who you are. And that makes it's a differentiator of anybody out there.
We need that more than ever as we go into a new conference. We're going into the Big Ten. It's unknown, and you have to be physical. And this offseason is going to be very, very telling for USC as it moves forward. Do you want to just be another team, or do you want to be USC? And that's on the coaching staff. It's on Lincoln Riley and him being the CEO. And let's hope for change, guys. I know we're up against it. Really appreciate everybody who joined us today. hit the like button, help with the YouTube algorithm. Really appreciate everybody that subscribed to the new LBC channel. Very thankful. We're getting closer to 1,000 subs in only the second month. And guys like you, JWalk, that have been around this whole season, working with you, seeing you at games, coming down to Tustin Brewing, I really appreciate you. I wish you and your family a great Thanksgiving. For those not following JWalk, you need to follow JWalk. He is an amazing talent. Check him out on Instagram at John Walker Pro. Tell us what you're doing right now, JWalk. I've seen that you got your business going on.
Oh yeah. So to be honest, I've been working this business since 2017. I just didn't have all my licensing and patents and all of my trademarks locked in. It took a while to secure the intellectual property so that I can advertise it at scale. But guys, what I do is multi-layered. For the most part, I run a private capital acquisition firm. So I help you secure business funding, right? And I help people structure their business in a way where we can go and secure $50 upwards to $250,000 worth of working capital to invest in products and businesses that help create passive forms of income. I'm very big in the Section 8 real estate space, as well as I do exotic car rentals, Airbnbs, and search engine optimization from a marketing standpoint to make sure that your product that you're advertising looks ideal to one of my lending partners. And I just go get you money, man. I'm a private money man to help people launch their startup businesses and create passive income through real estate and other transactions.
That's awesome, man.
Absolutely.
And Jamie, what you got going on, Jamie?
I got to let JWalk up on some passive income. I've been in the tech industry for 35 years. I work for Microsoft, and I handle all the Walt Disney account globally for all the cloud computing and everything that has to do with cloud and technology. And we're doing a lot with AI right now. It's a big part of Microsoft's growth engine right now. We're leading the way in that area, and looks like we're going to be that way. It's changing the world, and we're pretty much leading the way in that area. So we're excited about it.
Well, gentlemen,
that's excellent.
Thank you for being Trojans. I'm very thankful that you both could join us along with USC J, and appreciate the honest, open discussions, the stories, and sharing them with our viewers. Appreciate you. Have a great Thanksgiving with your families, and
you too.
Hope to see you before the bowl game. Fight on, guys.
Fight on. Fight on. Much love, Trojan family, and everybody else who's not in the Trojan family. May your families have beautiful, safe, prosperous Thanksgiving, and let's take a moment to reflect on the things that we are grateful for.
Yes, sir. Gratitude.
And let's send that love to those who may be in need. Wherever you are regionally, help someone. Help someone.
Very well said. And thank you to everybody who joined us today. Happy Thanksgiving to all your families, and fight on.
Fight on.